How many of you guys were here last time I spoke at PhreakNIC? Okay, so were you sent here on a dare or something? So, anyway, my name's Steve Esposito. My handle on the Twitter is Austrian Anarchy. There's a presentation on how to make a documentary yourself. They kind of sprang from, you guys have probably experienced this too numerous times, for me anyway, on various social media or just in person. I would, if I brought up a topic, somebody would come back and say, why aren't you talking about this other thing? Well, you've got the same web space and access I do, you can talk about it all day. Do it yourself. So there's not any excuse anymore that when you see something presented badly or see something that's not documented well, for you to go out there and make a rebuttal and do it in a quality manner without spending loads and loads of money on it. And a good place to start is just go out and look at really well done documentaries. They don't have to be long. Are you guys familiar with this Gamergate stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still pretty clueless on it. But there's somebody who's seems to be, whether he knows it or not, he's documenting it on YouTube. Sargon of Akkad. You guys watch his blog or anything? Really good. It's on YouTube. He blogs almost every day. That's something I don't do. I rarely put anything up. I'm working on something that's kind of complicated. You'll see a little bit of it later. But that also seems to be a key thing for developing a large audience is blog every day, whether it's any good, whether you think it's any good or not. And that's another thing that a lot of us, especially me, put something together and you think it's just horrible and you put it up and a lot of people like it. And then you go back and you try to fix what you thought was horrible and it doesn't get as many views as the original thing. So you can't second guess the public on taste, but you can make sure that what you present is factual. I'll tell you the name of one guy who does a wide variety of really good stuff, a director by the name of Brett Morgan. He did a couple of documentaries. Well, they're not all documentaries. There's one film he did called The Kid Stays in the Picture. It's the autobiography of Robert Evans. He is a Hollywood film guy. That's not a documentary. That's not a biography. It's not objective. The subject of the film is the person who wrote the thing, essentially. I think they had a different screenwriter adapt the book. Chicago 10, which I played a little bit of footage from there. It's also a Brett Morgan thing. He documented the Chicago 8/Chicago 7 trials of Abby Hoffman and others. And he used a whole lot of animation in that to fill in a lot of blanks, which was it was really good, except according to him, it didn't make any money and hardly anybody watched it. So, but you can probably get a copy of it from your library for free and borrow it and watch it. He also did a documentary called Kurt Cobain Montage of Heck, which, according to Brett Morgan, that's a documentary about Kurt Cobain's art. It's not really a documentary, and that's the first card on the screen when the movie starts. It says it's a documentary about his art. It got a lot of criticism for things that were portrayed in there, But as far as I can recall, all the criticism was from stuff that Cobain said in interviews himself, and it was put into the documentary. Thing was, it wasn't qualified as that they couldn't verify various things. It's like a young girl that he had sex with and stuff that some of his friends from his high school days doubted and would have known about. But now, one that is hands down, absolutely no doubt, a documentary, and it's unnarrated, and it is the documentary to study. If you want to do something that's all other people's footage and absolutely no narration, is called June 17th, 1994. It's on ESPN 30 for 30 documentary series, and it's about the day O.J. Simpson did his, and Cal Williams did their run down the highway in the Bronco. It was about everything that happened that day, but it was done in 1 hour. It covers the entire day, and it's really, really good, a good thing to study. A lot of things about a lot of documentaries, you might not be interested in the subject that the documentary is about, but if you want to learn how to make documentaries, you can still watch these and see techniques that you can use for your own stuff. You don't have to go to film school and this is easy enough to Google directors, no film school. Come up with Quentin Tarantino, Alfred Hitchcock, and dozens of other people. Now, Tarantino worked as an actor before he became a director, but he says he learned most of his directing and editing from working in a video store and just being a student of movies. Alfred Hitchcock and his wife worked for a movie studio, and back in the pre-sound days, I think, and his wife was an editor. And back then, that title was called film cutter, I believe. You also get weird stuff comes up, like there's a documentary of a Holocaust movie that Alfred Hitchcock worked on called Night Will Fall, and it's a documentary about making a documentary that the British and the United States government shelved, and for years. It just came out recently, called German Concentration Camps Factual Study. It was played on PBS, or no, I think that's on HBO. Anyway, wherever it is, there's a free place to find it too. I'm not going to give too many details on that, but there's this weird rumor going around that Alfred Hitchcock didn't want it shown because because it was so graphic that it would lose the effect of talking about how bad the atrocities of the Germans were during World War II. I don't know where that rumor started, because if you watch Night Will Fall, Alfred Hitchcock was the one who wanted all the long, big shots to make sure that the people who would come back later and say that it was all faked couldn't say that they faked the shots. And he wanted it shown in all of its goriness. That rumor that's out there is completely the opposite of what's portrayed in the movie. Let's see. Making documentaries can be quick, can be long. There's a new one out by Colin Hanks called All Things Must Pass. That thing took 7 years to document the Tower Records, rise and fall of Tower Records. But a lot of that was getting clearance for songs and stuff, which is something I'll bring up here in a few minutes. Copyrighted music will kill you. You can get clearance, it usually costs money. Even if you think you got clearance, you might not have clearance. You might not have the clearance that counts. Ask the Verve, it's a band. They Bittersweet Symphony, those guys. Look into that background. They tried to get rights from the Rolling Stones for a little bit of music that ends up being, you can't even hear it in the song or something. And anyway, they ended up losing all their rights to their one hit song. Another movie, Tim's Vermeer. Any of you guys seen that? It's absolutely fantastic, beautiful movie about how to replicate Vermeer's painting style. And that took over 4 years to make. Now that, they had all original footage. As far as I recall from watching, they had the real expensive cameras that they had in the artist's studio. The Tim guy who painted this Vermeer is the guy who came up with Video Toaster. If any of you guys remember that editing package. Anyway, it goes from the beginning of his idea to making the apparatus to doing the entire painting and noticing where he went wrong, where he went bad, whatever. And it's really, and I think Penn Jillette said that it was directed by Teller and it was produced by Penn Jillette. And I think Penn Jillette said they had over 25,000 hours of footage. They had every stroke on the painting shot from at least 4 angles, and using those fancy pants, expensive red cameras, and which you don't need if you get good light. You can use the black camera, and you don't need any of that anyway. You can go out and shoot your own footage with your iPhone and save some money. Anyway, we get on to the meat of this. That is my car. I got that license plate years before I ever thought I would be inspecting gas stations. It's one of my favorite chemicals, and I only use organic gasoline in my car. And that covers the gas tank. I'm going to show you the intro that I made, and later on we'll dissect it if I have time, and see just how this was done free. I mean, I didn't pay for any external anything on this. It was all it's Windows Movie Maker 6.0, and let's see, I think I used a free program to do this moving GIF and imported it into another program and put it on here.
identity, and I believe gave him the box number. At this point, it was possible it isn't a bank because the vaults were locked until 8:30 this morning. But all of these locks supposedly gave the name of Christmas Drive 4.
Now that it still needed to work. That's not my final product, but everything in there was done. Everything in there was done with free software, and the footage that I found is going to be free or fair use, and so I'm not going to pay for the any of the video I use from external sources. A little later, I'm going to go into the details of that, which is if you're going to do that, it's something you need to be intimately familiar with, and or your video is not going to be able to be seen by anybody, or somebody else will get the rights to it and they'll show it. Another thing is if you go out and document things yourself, there's a few issues you got to worry about there. Even if you're doing documentary news or whatever, the news crews have signs up that say that they're filming, at least from what I've heard. I've not been around many news crews filming, but they've got all their station logos and stuff placarded all over their big giant cameras and stuff. And if you go out to an event and you start filming, and some of the people who can be identified by their face in those images, if they object to it, then they could cause you trouble. Likely not, but then again, if you're not a lawyer, you don't want that kind of trouble. So research that. I've only done that once, and it was just such a big pain. I was interviewing somebody, and the guy who created the event kept walking into my shot. As soon as you put a camera up out on the sidewalk, you can put a camera up out in Death Valley, and somebody is going to walk between you and whoever you're interviewing. It's just, I don't understand how. I mean, I kind of envy the people who do that sort of thing for a living, because come on, I'm just trying to talk to this guy right here. I'll talk to you next. And it is a show. So, here is what a documentary is. It starts with your documentation, and your documentation can be, minimal. I mean, my first thing I did that was I would consider documentary was there was a thing about Bob Dylan, where I wasn't a Bob Dylan fan until I started doing a little research on my book project, and I was coming across these interviews where over decades everybody's asking Bob Dylan the same stupid questions. I'm like, didn't we hear that 10 years ago when somebody asked him that? And so I put it all together, and it gets a few hits. And on YouTube there was a copyright thing on it, and whoever holds Bob Dylan's music library did it, and I just acknowledged it. It's like, I really could have challenged it, but I just said, okay. So now if you see commercials on it, it's Bob Dylan's commercials, not my commercials. So, and that's the way YouTube does things. Anyway, it starts with your documentation, and and it's supposed to be factual and objective. It's a lot, and in a lot of the literature, you'll find two sources for each item. That's important when you decide that you're going to get a lawyer's letter, to get your copyright registered, to get a lawyer's letter, also to go to an insurance company to get insurance if you're doing something that you really want insurance on. And the insurance company isn't your 8th grade English teacher. The insurance company is going to look at your list of sources and they'll say, okay, fine. And then if you get sued, they're going to go back to that list of sources, and if you double sourced 2 different people who are referring to the same source, they're going to drop your policy and they're going to let you worry about it on your own. So, or anything, if you lie to your insurance company and anything happens, then you're on your own. If you lie to your insurance company and nothing happens, well, then that might give you a false sense of security for the next time, and then when you really need that insurance. You don't have to get it. You can go through all this stuff and at least get your copyright registered, because and it's $35, because without coming into that more detail later. But well, first, does anybody know when your copyright, when you get a copyright on anything?
As soon as you come up with it.
It's, well, as soon as it's fixed in a medium. So if you write a poem down on a piece of paper, you're under United States law, you got a copyright now from that moment on. And it keeps changing how long the copyright's good for. But if you think of your poem and you speak it out at the courthouse square, you don't have copyright on that yet. You didn't fix it to a medium. If you recorded it, you got a copyright. Now, here's the issue. If you don't register your copyright, then that's fine. You're just not going to be able to get a lawyer to represent you in a copyright dispute on it, and somebody else uses it and sells it, makes money off of it, or whatever, or uses it in a manner you don't like to use it. If you do that, and that's all based on if you don't have a registered copyright, the lawyer's not going to take it, because as far as the courts are concerned, your case is now too big of a hill to climb for them to probably deal with. Now, if you're the lawyer, it might be a different story. But anybody a lawyer in here? Okay. I'm not either. Oh yeah, that's a big thing. Steve is not a lawyer. And if I was a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer. So this isn't legal advice. This is just observations I've been making trying to go through this, because my project's a long project. I'm going to get a copyright on it, and I'm on the script and on the book, and it's it's going to be presented for free and low def, and it's going to be a paid DVD or download in high def. So I want to make sure I protect all that, because I'm not spending a couple hundred. I'm not spending a couple $100 and then have somebody else take my work away from me, or have somebody else prevent me from giving it away for free. So on the one thing on double sourcing, if you've got original, and they don't, lawyer types don't really seem to bring this out very well. Yeah, if you've got, like in the video I just showed, they're interviewing a guy from the New York City Police Department, spokesperson, and that is actual. That's an actual representation of what he said. I don't have to have a second source to say that so-and-so, and he's a good writer too. He went on to be a freelance writer, but you don't have to have a second source for that. But if I'm going to say in narration, I came to PhreakNIC and then say something about the videographer, and I'm going to have some second source besides, two sources besides me, to agree that the videographer did something, did whatever it was. I don't know, it's hard for me to come up with stuff like that, because most of my documentation is direct from FBI records and multiple newspaper sources. One of the things like on the project I'm working on the time bomber project, the multiple newspaper sources, like I said earlier, they could be referring to the same source. So I can't really use a Chicago Tribune and a Chicago Sun-Times article that are both talking to the same guy that as separate sources. I can refer to all of them in a bunch and say, all of these talk to this guy and they all got the same story from something like that, but I can't use that as dual sourcing. Michael Donaldson, I use his book on clearance and copyright as the title. It's in the 4th or 5th edition right now. He's a guy that has a lot of videos out on YouTube. He and his writing or law and writing partner do, and that's a really good place to get familiar with clearance and copyright and what you can do and what you can't do. And he has the quote, if you can quote it, you can show it, and that's pretty recent actually. He was saying that it was just last year, 2014, that they got the insurance underwriters to accept fair usage of video, which is essentially uncleared, didn't ask anybody's permission to use the other people's work in your larger project. Okay. I'm a big proponent of using dictionaries. And if you go to Wikipedia and look at the Weatherman, Weather Underground webpage, that starts off with, there's this big, tedious preamble about scholars can't agree on what terrorism is. Well, the dictionaries agree about what terrorism is, and the weathermen were terrorists according to the dictionary. In Wikipedia, which I'm going to have a whole different thing about Wikipedia here in a minute. I'm a big proponent of Wikipedia, but as all the Wikipedians will tell you, Wikipedia is not a source unto itself. So just because Wikipedia has a big editor's argument about what terrorism is, doesn't mean you have to. Just go to a dictionary. If you want to know what words, if you're talking about something that happened in the 1950s, by all means, yank Merriam-Webster's dictionary from before 1961, and it will give you what that word was supposed to mean, how everybody was supposed to be using it. American Heritage Dictionary does that currently. Since 1961, Merriam-Webster and the Oxford English Dictionary has done this. It's fabulous. It's my favorite dictionary. It gives you the whole history of words and how they've been used 3 different times. Oh, by the way, on that terrorism thing, Thomas Jefferson used terrorism as act of state against the violent acts of state against the civilian population. And then later, that by the time the Weatherman came around, it was any political actor using, this isn't the exact definition, this is my paraphrasing, any political actor using, performing acts of violence against the civilian population for a political purpose. That's terrorism. Blowing up your bathroom because you're not a collectivist is terrorism. So, and blowing up your bathroom because you are a collectivist is terrorism too. But blowing up your bathroom just because I don't like you, now that's just a plain old crime. one of the great things about doing this stuff is don't, stay away from foregone conclusions. Just, if you're in it, this is my recommendation. Don't have to follow what I'm saying, of course. You can just just start researching a topic that you're interested in, and then when you start finding stuff out that you didn't know before, use it. It's like, I do get a little annoyed when I start researching something, stuff that my high school history teacher told me is absolutely, completely, wildly incorrect and ridiculously wrong. I don't get mad at the new information I found or the writer of it. I get a little annoyed with my high school history teacher. But the bottom line is you're documenting something. It's supposed to be a real, no BS what happened. If you have to start qualifying, like for example, the Kurt Cobain montage of heck, I really don't count that myself as a documentary. Brett Morgan says it's a documentary about his art, and I was like, well, that's a nice story. It falls a little bit shy of real documentary. June 17th, 1994. That is absolutely a wonderful documentary that any documentarian should at least study, even if you don't like sports. Chicago 10, same thing. Truthiness is not a standard to aspire to. I have not seen this new Robert Redford movie yet, but your sources, if you don't verify your sources, it's on you, because you have to understand everybody else out there has, number one, everybody's memory sucks. Everybody's memory sucks. Number two, everybody has their own reasons for doing things. They're not going to be it's going to be incredibly bizarre if the person next to you or your twin has the exact same motivations and biases that you do. It just doesn't happen. So you have to evaluate all this stuff. I'm going to show an example of that in a minute. What's the Wikipedia example? This is all that stuff, all the different varieties of documentary style that they teach in film school. And if you're going to go to film school, you need to learn them. If not, just don't make your movie. Documentary versus propaganda. I'm not here to tell people how to be a propagandist, because nobody needs to be encouraged to do that. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has their own politics. They do it every day. They don't need help. It's more power to them. They go work for Vox or National Review if they're really mouthy enough for it, and get a lot of people to read their stuff. Don't have to. This isn't about that. This is about being the librarian, not being the person on CNBC and CNN and Fox. Okay, these are the slides about why it's important to get a copyright for your work. Oh, something I almost forgot. Trademark. You cannot get a valid trademark for a movie or a book or a title. You can trademark a series. So what I'm probably going to do is try to get a trademark for my series about 70s bombing incidents. And because I think I've got enough stuff now to do at least 2, which that's a series to me, and maybe get a trademark on that. There are some movies that did get granted trademarks, and it's covered in the book I mentioned earlier. But those seem to be anomalies. Seems to be, in my opinion, imagine that a bureaucrat made an error, and they got granted trademarks. Now, if those trademarks get challenged, I seriously doubt that they're going to stand up. But remember, Steve is not a lawyer, so I'm not a judge either. If you're going to do something long like what I'm doing, if you do it from somebody else's book, you need to get their permission to do it from their book. So write your own book. And if their book is sourced and you think it's awesome, but they just didn't do it right or whatever, use all their sources and write your own script, or write your own pamphlet, or write your own book. I think the difference between a pamphlet and a book is you got less than enough pages to make a spine on a book, which is 135, then it's a pamphlet. So that's I read that in some kind of book industry stuff. So I don't know if that's how accurate that is. That's what you should look up anything I say instead of just believing me. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. Okay, scripting software is something that keeps just going. Me and my wife are working on a project, on a movie project called Twist, and I asked my friend what software he uses. He uses Celtics. Well, that used to be free, and it's still on their website. It says always will be free. Well, you go to the always will be free, and when I go to it now, it says your 15-day free trial is up. So anyway, that one isn't free anymore. Duet, basic one, is free. I'm using Trelby, and that one's free, as in free. You can try to do it in your favorite word processor, but there's all kinds of weird, quirky things that go into scripts. All this theater people talk that it's helpful to use Trelby or something like that. And you know, there's probably going to be something else out there that's free today that wasn't free yesterday, or it's new. And there's other things that were free yesterday that aren't free anymore now. Now, this is a theoretical way to the dialogue that I showed you, the police spokesman. When I was writing that down, I had to just type it in by hand, and you could use some other methods to make that go a little bit easier. This is theoretical. Here are the issues of fair use, and the lawyer people say that fair use is a defense, which technically it still is, even though the Congress has done a few things to make it easier to do fair use. But the thing with it is, if you've hit all the proper items in fair use, then you're probably not going to be bothered by, or if you get bothered by anybody who is a copyright holder of material that you're using, you're probably not going to be bothered by them for long. And then again, you might have somebody who's really tenacious and wants you to stop, and they'll just bug you forever. Your lawyer needs to look at it. Is there somebody coming in behind you?
Yeah.
Oh. and I'll hurry up. These are the points of fair use. So, and these slides will be up. Also, this video ought to be up soon, tonight or tomorrow, my copy of it. And also, Stanford, that URL has a very good long discussion about fair use, except it's from 2009, and there's been a couple positive, for us, new wrinkles in it since then. So it's not quite as strict as this, but since that stuff changes, it would behoove you to research the current information on it. Transformative use, for example, in a different edit of that same opening that I showed you for my project, I went to, Google Earth Pro is free now, but you gotta get the license, and it's a free license, and you can use it in your projects as long as you don't mess with their copyright logos and stuff. That just happened last year, I think. Anyway, what I'm doing is having zooming in from outer space down into around the world, down into New York, to the street scene of where that guy's speaking, and transitioning through there, and having that was only one of 2 takes that AP has on the website, and all that, which would, I believe, make this transformative use, because I'm putting additional information. I'm showing where this guy is speaking from, all this that AP did not have on their video. Hopefully that will stand the test. And also, one of those things that the lawyer I mentioned earlier said, a lot of the cases that they get, it's merely that the credit was not given to the material that was used. So, like, what I'm going to have later in an edit on that is up in the upper right-hand corner, like you'll see when I play the 60 minutes thing, if I get to. It'll have the year, copyright logo of the year, and the source of the information on it. Which that apparently that gets rid of a whole lot of the complaints as soon as you just go ahead and acknowledge them. Which there's, I don't see why one wouldn't do that, because I don't want people thinking I went back to 1972 and filmed somebody myself. I didn't. There's no reason for me to lead anybody to believe that.
And yes, I own a patent to my time machine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a time machine issue coming up. And here's the Bob Dylan song, since part of my project has something to do with the Weathermen. The Weathermen got their name from a line in a Bob Dylan song. Well, that Bob Dylan song is Subterranean Homesick Blues, which Bob Dylan did a cool video about years back before videos were videos. And also, he didn't mention the Weathermen anywhere I could find until his autobiography in 2006. He mentioned them, therefore I can use an excerpt out of Bob Dylan's autobiography. The audiobook, the abridged, half as long audiobook for Bob Dylan's autobiography, Chronicles, was narrated by Sean Penn. So I can use the audio clip showing and then Sean Penn and Bob Dylan's name end up getting into the credits. Now, I don't think anybody sitting in this room is going to run out and watch my video just because Bob Dylan or Sean Penn's name is in there. But there are Bob Dylan fans who might actually look at it, and then they'll see, Well, this only has 30 seconds about Dylan in it. I hate this. Thumbs down. Or whatever. But, okay, and, yeah, mention that. This is the cover of that book I was mentioning. Yeah, when, if you use anybody else in your project, you gotta research how to make sure that you're not giving them or you're not protecting your rights, your creative rights. Bad sources. Okay, I don't know if you can, that's hard to read. I'll read this for you. This is on Wikipedia. This is a guy I ended up talking to. I spoke about him the last time I spoke here. This guy's name is Matt Steen. He says he used to be in the Weather Underground. The 60 Minutes said he was in the Weather Underground. And in here it says that this guy did an interview with Dan Rather on 60 Minutes, and that after he did the interview, once he urged all the weathermen to surrender in 1977. It's listed in the footnotes that he says it was in November 1977. And they passed, and it caused all these people to surrender, including Mark Rudd. Mark Rudd is somebody who I have an email, correspond with on email whenever I'm talking about any of this stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, this is a gold mine. This is awesome. Also, in a later edit, he said that the song Life During Wartime by the Talking Heads, that was inspired by this 60 Minutes interview, and it inspired Jimmy Carter to grant amnesty to all these people, and it has all the, I'm going, that Everything Is Awesome song wasn't even out yet, and I was playing in my head. I was, okay, I like the Talking Heads, I can use them in my movie now, all this stuff, and no. Here is it in its entirety. Does that look like Dan Rather to you? Who is that? That is Mike Wallace. That's
Mike
not
Wallace,
Dan
yeah.
Rather. The title, fake ID, not even the title this guy used. And actually, in my book bag, I have this DVD or this CD that I got from CBS. It didn't air in 1977. It aired February 1st, 1976, and I saw it. I saw it when it was new. And one of the things about reading about it in Wikipedia was I used to watch every episode of that show, and I don't remember this one. Well, this is why. Because what was written in Wikipedia didn't have anything to do with what was in this show. Here's the whole thing. Here's the
Full interview.
Fake
Matt
ID.
Steen's
Patty Hearst used it hiding out from the FBI. So did James Earl
Walking
Ray.
proof that the process really does work is this young man, Matthew Steen, alias Eric Gilbert Dietz, alias T. Swingle Frick III, alias Romez Tomei. In 1970, while a student at Berkeley, Steen went underground as a member of the militant Weathermen organization. Before he was arrested in 1971, Steen says he had obtained 150 different identities, almost all of them courtesy of various government agencies. What kind of documents are we talking about?
Birth certificates, notarized birth certificates, driver's licenses, various dates, occasionally social security cards, and other superficial types of identification like library cards, etc.
And you had no real difficulty in doing this?
No.
By the time the FBI got to him in 1971, Steen acknowledges he had used various fake IDs to rip off the Bank of America. He'd buy a set of traveler's checks, then a couple of weeks later claim they'd been lost or stolen, and get replacements. He had doubled his money. How much did you make this way?
Somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000.
Among the official documents Matt Steen obtained under assumed names was a U.S. passport. Well, for decades, the head of the passport office in Washington has been keenly aware of the fake ID problem. Francis Knight.
Okay, That was it. That's all of it. And none of that was in the Wikipedia article. A whole different story was in the Wikipedia article. And I went in and edited it, and he came back and said that, oh, he is the person who was writing his own Wikipedia article. And he came back and claimed that it was vandalism and reverted all my edits. So anyway, I'm going back in and fixing it later. So might be the most important thing, which should have made it first, but anyway. Copyrighted music, get it out of the video that you use, if possible. And here's a technique to remove it. I did it with Audacity. There's a couple of different documentaries that I was getting clips from, and they always had music going through. And now having music in your background is important. It doesn't seem like it might be important, but it's going to be the difference. It kind of gives everybody's ears something to do in between words, and it ties things together. But the music in 3 different documentary clips that you have edited right next to each other, their music isn't going to match each other, and it's not going to match what you're doing. So you can get it, you can remove it with Audacity like this, and then you can put your own free to use music in there. And since I'm running out of time, is the next speaker already here? Not yet? Okay.
If they even made it at all.
I'm going to real quick go through the rest of my slides, and anyway, if anybody wants to collaborate on how to do any of this stuff, by all means contact me, I'll get together with you, and I'll online and help you do it, walk you through it, from what I know. And my solution is probably not the best solution, it's just a solution, or it might be stuff I have no clue how to do, and I'll let you know that too. Here's where you can get some free music. Freesound.org is really good. Incomtech.com. I didn't use Incomtech on that clip that you saw. I used something else, and that's in the credits. Blender is probably the best overall package to use if your computer has the horsepower for it, and if you're smart enough to use it. Because it was hard for me to learn how to use, and I'm not going to say that I know how to use it yet. Also, these movie people come up with weird names for crap. See that term 2.5D effect? Anybody know what that is? You know when you have a still picture and they did a little bit of movie magic so that when the camera pans it looks like it's a 3D picture, but you can tell it was from a still picture? That's 2.5D. You can do that with combination of Blender and GIMP. And also all of this stuff where you see tutorials in After Effects and Premiere or whatever, all that stuff you can watch those, and then those effects, those techniques are available between Blender and GIMP. Edit stills. Movie Maker 6.0, that's the version that you probably want to get. Oh, it also has a page flip effect that I was going to show that I haven't seen anybody else using anyplace else. It's if you have 2 slides and you want it to look like you flipped a page where one of them was on the next page, it's the only place I found that does that right. Every place else, when you flip the page over, it's the reverse of the page you just flipped. instead of sticking two different pages together. You can probably do that in Blender. I don't know how, but you probably can. Lightworks, that's really good too. As far as you can do picture-in-picture kind of stuff and all that you can't do in the Microsoft products. And let's see, somebody's blog is a tech blog. They were talking about some of these TV shows where you see this document on the screen, and then they zoom into it really, really tight. And those guys were thinking, well, that had to be like a 16K image that they're using in their editor, and you need a lot of resources for it. You really don't. One technique you can use is you have an image that looks fine from a distance, and then when you want to zoom in on part of it, you have another image that's high resolution for that portion of, like if you wanted to zoom in on that period and make that period be something, the globe, you can make that period be something super high resolution and just shrink it down, and then zoom in on that. Everything else gets blurry and it comes out. It's that's probably kind of silly, but that's something I noticed that you can do and keep your resources down. All my editing I've been doing on this Toshiba C55T computer that is about 2 years old now. My philosophy on getting a new computer is go to Best Buy and get the $350 Toshiba and maybe add some RAM to it. And also, these we've got a terabyte and a 1.8 terabyte drive sitting on the back, and that's where I keep most of the video. Those are inexpensive, but you gotta be careful with them, because if you have them running there and start flopping them around, you're probably gonna break. That camera right there, just bought it, open box at Best Buy, less than $200. It does 60 frames per second, 1080p, and it's 9.2 megapixel still pictures. And if you watch a lot of these film-oriented blogs and vlogs and stuff, they talk about using a Canon, I think it's a D5 or 5D, I don't know. It's like $3,000, and they talk about, like, yeah, just use one of those. I can't just use one of those. That's $3,000. You know, that's, one of the things I wanted to mention about strategy on publishing your video, you can put a low-res video on YouTube, and don't even monetize it, just put it, you can get the high-res version over here at Amazon, and people can still see what you have to say about the topic, but if they want to help support your project, they can go buy, for $6, they can buy the 1080p version. Also, instead, you don't have to have a big giant screen. You can get my camera there has a HD output on it, and what I can do is put the whole thing on the chip in the camera, or on a card, put it in the camera, and take it to a library or someplace that has access to a theater-size display, and see what it looks like on the full-size screen, and see if you need to change anything. Something else, if you don't have good resolution for making something really big, make it small. If we've got a really low-res interview of somebody, instead of filling the whole screen with it, fill up in the corner and put the narration down the side in high res. And you can do things like that. That's where you're not lying to anybody. You're telling them, you're helping tell the truth better. And that's all I got on that. So, sorry for running long again.
Yeah, thank you. Don't forget this clause, yeah.